All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to continue talking about personality, that compilation of everything we do, think, feel, and therefore how we interact with the world by looking at another possible personality indicator, which is affectionately called the Myers-Briggs. So what Myers-Briggs is it is a four-letter indicator. So we'd originally just learned about introverts and extroverts and using that as an indicator. Myers-Briggs is going more in depth, and it's actually looking at four different categories of personality, you could call it, to help indicate what someone's personality is. Okay, so the history behind it, the Myers-Briggs type indicator was based off of Carl Jung's theory of psychological type. That's the scientist who was doing the initial work to create it. And there are, as I mentioned, four main categories that we are looking at. For each category, there is two ends of a spectrum that you could be. So the first category is actually introversion and extroversion. So that original personality type we were talking about is one of the factors that we were looking at here. What's different is that in this understanding, we are talking about a spectrum. So we are saying that just because somebody is an introvert, they could still act a little differently than another person who's an introvert because they could be somewhere else on the spectrum of introversion or extroversion. And then there, like I said, there's three other categories that we're going to look at in detail. Okay, these are incredibly useful in a number of different environments. In different aspects of my life, I have had this testing done as part of high-level athletes and sports teams. I've had it done as workplace teams. Our marriage, when we went to go get married, our ministers actually did this type of personality testing on my husband and I to help us understand in that interpersonal relationship. And so this is used in a lot of different aspects. The full testing to get to your Myers-Briggs personality must be done in person and with somebody that's trained to do it. And it is a fair bit more complex than the one that you would have done in this class. But the one in this class is simple enough that we could do it to get us a starting off point to understand what we could do. I've also included the website here if you are interested in more information about this. So remember, it is a spectrum. So I have put up here the results from the online one that we did of my introversion and extroversion. So even though the results told me I was an extrovert, if I look at my spectrum, you can see that I am very close to the middle. Okay, I'm only 56%. That's barely over the borderline into extroversion. And so if you have a result similar to this in any of these situations, what this is telling you is that you are not strongly one or the other. And often in these cases, you can kind of flirt back and forth, okay? It could also mean that the test struggled to truly see which one you honestly were. So as I mentioned, when I've had this done professionally, I do come out as an introvert, okay? But again, in society, I present myself very much as an extrovert. And so some of the nuances that this test couldn't pick up on is just about the things that I have chosen to do, even though I am naturally an introvert. So as we go along and learn about each of these, I want you to reflect on the results that you got. And when you're reading it, is it actually accurate or not? And especially if you got one that's right in the middle, which one do you more likely identify with for the work that we're going to be doing going forward? So introvert and extrovert, we already talked about in the last video. Okay. In business, what does this mean? Generally, we see extroverts, they like working in groups and teams. They're generally more likely to answer quickly and share information easily. Okay, they're going to be able to pull information on the spot, have conversations, whatnot, and they generally are able to make themselves heard in group and team meetings. Okay, what's important to note is that introverts are generally able to come up with more in-depth solutions to problems. However, they need time to think about these answers. And so knowing that you have a team of people where some are extroverts or some are introverts is important to know that if you're giving a problem and you're asking for solutions in that group setting, you're likely not going to hear from some of those introverts and you may miss out on some of those opportunities. Okay. Also, generally, as we talked about, they need quieter environments to do their best work. Okay. The next category that we're going to look at is sensing or intuition. So you would have generally in your results either got an S for sensing or an N for intuition. Okay. This category is looking at how you process information. So this doesn't have to do with so much about what goes out of you. It has to do with what goes on in your brain when information is presented to you. So to help us understand this, I have this picture for you to look at. I'm going to be quiet for about 30 seconds, and I'd like you to just look at this picture and let your mind think whatever it thinks. I'm going to stop you there. Okay. And I don't want to tell you what's in your mind, but I do want to tell you that likely the way that you looked at this and the things that you thought are very different than a number of your classmates. Okay. Some of you did not need that whole amount of time to look at this picture. You looked at this picture and you were like, oh, there's a street that says Wall Street, or there's a sign that says Wall Street, or oh, there is a person on this little bench in the background, or oh, there is 15 people standing here. I don't actually know how many are there, but maybe you counted them. Or you noticed very intricate details and facts about this picture, and then you were done with it. Okay. Some of you may not have noticed or processed that there was a sign that had a word on it, or that there was a person back here. Okay. Some of you may have been in your head thinking about what season it might have been, or you thinking about what feeling this photo evokes for you, or a number of different other things. And I very much interrupted a deep and meaningful thought process that was happening. Okay. And this is a demonstration of the difference between sensing and intuition. Okay. So sensing generally are people that focus on facts. Okay. I counted the people when I look at that picture. Okay. I focus on facts. I look at what color are there. I categorize and go through the information of what is there. And this is very much a sensing thing. Okay. These people generally live in the now. Okay. In their overall life, when they get information, they process it based off of what is happening in this moment right now. Okay. And they look at the facts. Intuition, or in an intuitive, generally when they're presented with information, try to find a deeper meaning to what is happening. Okay. Generally, these thought processes are going to be longer. Okay. They might look at or think about, what was that person's intention in how they said that? Or what did they truly mean when they said this? Or, thinking more elaborately about if you're faced with a decision about how that's going to affect the future. Okay. And so that is more of our difference. So sensing and intuition is about what you do with information when it's presented to you. So again, if you look at your own spectrum based on that definition, is it right? You'll see mine is exactly 50-50 on sensing and intuition. Okay. I am what they call a chameleon, when they get smack dab in the middle, and I jump from side to side. This can actually be quite difficult to deal with, because people that have relationship with me don't know which side I'm going to land on, and can be quite surprised by my reaction to things that are presented to me. Okay, but again, even if yours is somewhat in the middle, thinking about that definition, which one makes the most sense to you? I would say that I am sensing. Okay, I generally deal with facts and figures and numbers and that kind of information, and I have worked very hard over my life to learn to think beyond that. And so that might be why that intuition side is starting to show up for me. Okay. If we look at a business environment, okay, this is the one category that we do generally see both predominantly in business. One has not been favored over the other. Okay. Because business environments are constantly changing, intuitives, or people with strong intuitions on this, are becoming more and more important to business. Okay. These are the people that we want to be making long-term plans, because they're generally thinking about kind of those long-term solutions and what's going on. Whereas sensors are more detail-oriented with the information that they're given. And so they're really, really good at being detailed managers, fields like accounting where it's numbers based, being presented, we must meet this sales figure and coming up with a very detailed plan of how you're going to actually do this. Okay, our sensors are generally very good at helping us come up with realistic plans, whereas our intuitives are generally more creative in their solutions. And so it's really important that we have both on our team to make sure that both sides are being thought of. Okay. The next one that we're going to look at, the next category, is thinking and feeling. So these codes that you would have been given are a T or an F. Thinking and feeling has to do with how you make decisions. Okay, so while the last one was when facts are presented to you, okay, thinking and feeling is how you then use that information to make a decision to go forward. Okay, thinkers predominantly prefer to make decisions using logical, objective, and analytical results. Okay, this would be someone that's at the very far extreme that would say, okay, based off of the projections, we don't need as many staff, so we are going to fire someone. Okay, it is very logical. Okay, feelers tend to make decisions based off of what is right. Okay, they are compassionate, they are empathetic, they think about others' feelings or what this is going to look like to society, as opposed to so much focusing on what has to get done. Okay, in my example in the last video, I said I always hated my brother. I didn't understand him. I thought he was very mean. This was the category that was the problem. My brother was a very strong thinker. Okay, he doesn't understand that somebody would make a decision off of their emotions or off of how somebody else might feel because of their decision. That does not make sense to him because he looks at the information in front of him, and that is what he makes a decision based off of. Okay. Oops, sorry. So if you look at your spectrum based on that information, is it correct? You'll see that I am a fairly strong feeler. I make my decisions based off of emotion for other people. And that was why my brother and I had such a conflict growing up, because I assumed he was the same as me. And so when he said something, that he meant it in the way that I emotionally took it, which he didn't. He's not a feeler. He didn't think about how what he said or what he did made me feel. Okay. And this is there. This one is strongly influenced by your upbringing and the people that raised you. Okay. My parents, for example, were very, very adamant about what looked right to society. Okay. How we presented ourselves. They were very adamant about always showing up on time because it was disrespectful if you didn't. And so they took a lot of time to make sure that we understood that our actions and our decisions did cause an emotional response, or they taught us that they did have an emotional reaction there. And that was something that I very much took to heart. Now, I mentioned my brother didn't. So all I mean is that what you naturally are can be intensified by your upbringing, or lowered by your upbringing and what is going on around you in society. Okay. In business, let's think about it. We need thinkers in positions that have to make very, very hard decisions. People that have to fire people, people that have to cut budgets, people that have to do unpleasant things, things like lawyers, things like accountants, things like IT. We generally see thinkers in these roles because they're less personally affected by the things that they have to do, right? Personally, I look at lawyers and I think, like, how could someone represent a criminal? Okay, but if you are a thinker, you just do what you need to do. You look at the facts and you represent the facts, and there isn't much more involved there, and so that's why they're able to be successful. Okay, we also, however, need feelers in our workplaces to help maintain dynamics. We often see in business the most successful companies are the ones where the employees stay for a long time. Well, employees stay for a long time because they feel valued. Somebody feels valued because a feeler generally, or a thinker who's been taught what feelers think, is ensuring that the way they are treated in the workplace is making them feel welcome and included and valued. Okay, so generally we see people that work in human resources, the hiring of people and the creating good environments, they are going to be strong feelers. We also often see this in marketing roles and equity officers and whatnot. But again, effective teams in a business need both. We need both sides of it to bounce off of each other to see things being done effectively. Okay. The final category that we are going to look at is judging and perceiving, J and P. Before we go into this one, I just want to take a moment. The word judging has a negative connotation generally. People feel bad if they're told that they are a judging person because society has made it that way. And if you got a judging as a result, please do not feel bad about it. Please listen to what I'm about to explain. Okay, this is just one of the categories, okay? Neither of these are bad. In any of these situations, neither of these are bad, okay? This category looks at how you interact with the world outside of yourself. So not so much what you think, not so much the decisions that you make, but how you interact with other people, with the world around you, with businesses or whatnot. And it generally has to do with how structured or flexible you can be in those interactions, okay? So judgers, to simplify it, generally like structure. Okay, these are people who love their calendar. Okay, they probably have a nice organized desk. They want to know exactly what they're doing with a daily plan. They see things as very one way or the other, black or white, and they struggle if issues are not settled. Okay, you don't need to be all of these things. So I am a judger in the sense that I like schedule and I like organization. Okay, however, my desk is a disaster, so you don't need to have all of them. Okay, but I struggle with needs not being or issues not being settled. So if I've had a disagreement with somebody, my husband, for example, and he wants time to think about it, okay, and just wants to go to bed and talk about it tomorrow, I won't sleep, because I need things dealt with and closed before I can move on to other things. And this has to do with that judging category, okay? Perceivers actually work better with less structure, okay? They want to be given open-ended decisions, okay? They don't want you to say, okay, you have to pick between A or B. They want to be just presented with the problem and come up with creative solutions themselves. Okay, they like to be flexible. They enjoy unexpected situations or surprises or different things that are going on. And again, like I said, it's a spectrum. Okay, you don't need to meet all of these. Okay, but perceivers can actually work worse under very tight structural schedules because that's just not the way that they work effectively with the world, and it can dampen their ability to interact with the world and process that information. Okay. So given that information, where do you fall on the spectrum? Okay, so again, you can see mine falls fairly close to the middle. I would say when I was younger, it was far further to the judging side. I have had to work very, very hard to be okay with not having very, very tight schedules. Okay, and that is coming up in my results. But as you guys are a little younger, your results may be a little bit more true, or you may be looking at your result and saying this is wrong, in which case it's definitely change yours to match what feels right given that definition. Okay. In business, your judgers are great planners, so use them and put them in roles where they can plan things, okay? Let them create timelines, let them work in the environment where things need to be planned out, okay? Don't give those tasks to perceivers because that's not something that they're going to enjoy doing. It doesn't mean they can't do it, okay? But they don't enjoy doing it. Okay, and they don't thrive doing it, okay? Perceivers are wonderful at starting their own businesses, okay? They're okay with less formal structured business. They're fine to not know what's going to happen, and they like that, open-ended opportunity. My husband wants to start his own business, constantly talks about it, and it scares the life out of me, okay? We just have different personalities, and it has to do with that, okay? Judges like timeline, they like management, they like known information. Okay. So in the end, in Myers-Briggs, you get an end result. So as we've been going along, hopefully you've been looking at your letters for each of the categories and if they make sense to you. Okay. And if one of them doesn't, then please change it on your document to what you believe your personality truly is. Okay. Not what you want it to be, but what it truly is. Okay. And you're going to be given a 4-letter code. So while each of those codes has to do with an individual section, there is further analysis that can be done once you have your code on what that does together. So somebody that's an introvert that is sensing, that combination is going to be different than somebody that, is an extrovert that is sensing. Okay, so even though that sensing is the same, that extrovert added in is going to change it a little bit. Okay, again, it's really, really important, and why we do it is to know yourself. Okay, know your strengths and weaknesses. A lot of people perceive, oh, you're not very organized. That's a bad thing. Okay, well, let's take a moment and look at this. You naturally are not someone who interacts with the world in a really structured manner. That's just not a part of who you are. So if you have made steps towards doing that in certain environments like school, then actually you are deserving of a very big pat on the back, because you're working a lot harder at that than somebody that might even be quote unquote better than you at doing that, because that comes naturally to them. Okay. It also means that you want to set yourself up for success in the future. When you're looking at possible jobs, when you're looking at possible things that you want to do, choose something that matches that personality and utilizes and values the way that your brain works and functions in the world, more so than trying to change it into something else. Okay, I've shared a link there for you to go in and look at some job descriptions based on your personality. In the last slide that I show you, that I put up, mine, suggested being possibly a dentist or an elementary school teacher or a librarian or a franchise owner, which is quite interesting considering I did become a teacher. And so that was taken from this website. So you can go in and check out what jobs might be of a suggestion for you. Some of them may sound great, some of them may not. But again, looking at jobs and careers from a personality aspect is really, really important, because you may be good at something, but how you feel every day at work is really, really important and can be the make or break of if you love your job. Okay. Also, as a boss, knowing people's personality is important. You want to make teams and groups of people with different personalities. The more we interact with people of different personalities, the more likely we are to come up with different and creative and awesome, unique solutions. And we can also utilize people's natural personalities, and they're going to be more happy at work. Okay. I also strongly encourage, and we're going to do more work on this tomorrow, that we consider personality in times of conflict and misunderstanding. Okay. This is something that the world is getting worse at, and that's why we're going to spend a whole day on it tomorrow. Okay. All right. So you're now going to jump back to your playlist and get to work. Okay, you'll notice that there is a reflection piece for you. Hopefully you have been doing it while we've been in the video. Okay, but for each of the categories, thinking and feeling, sensing and intuition, perceiving and judging, I'm asking you if you agree with the results that you got based off of what you've just learned. Okay, and then to think of a specific time where what naturally happened in your brain, what your natural reaction or natural thought was, you stopped it and you chose a different answer, or you chose a different course of action. And I'd like you to think about why you did that. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more tomorrow, but I just need that result there for you. And then at the end, again, there is a quick quiz for you to complete to show your understanding of what we've just talked about. And as a reminder, you can do it multiple times, as many times as you need to show a full understanding of the concept. All right, please make sure you've either come into the live meet or do again when you are done to say goodbye.